may hear this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in this world. Welcome to another episode of the TTC Meetup. And today we are going to be talking about modeling. Now, this is a topic which is underspoken in the realms of testing, but plays a very important part. And all of us, when we are actually testing, have our own approach, have our own mental model to approach to test anything that we have at hand. And this meetup is to share ideas, thoughts around the way we approach modeling out of the applications in our head, or to design the tests, and share some important notes if we can, and to learn. So I want to begin by asking each one of you if you have applied any sort of, or do you apply any sort of modeling, or when it comes to testing. Is there something that comes to your mind? Faiz.
So I don't know about model as such, but see, so whenever I am given any application, okay, to test, so I first try to understand what from whatever documentation is provided. If there is no and regardless of there is documentation or not, I try to explore it. I try to think from an end user perspective as much as possible. Of course, it may not be possible each and every time to think from end user perspective, because sometimes let's say domain and other things becomes a challenge, we can say, because let's say if I'm working for a new domain, it might take me some time to how user will behave, to understand, or to do such kind of activities. However, some of the things, some of the human behavior, we can say it's not it remains the same regardless of the domain of the application. So those kind of things I try to keep it in mind. Also, what I try to do is, depending upon whether it's a web app or mobile app, depending upon the target market. Let's say, for example, if it's let's say it's primarily for US or UK or that kind of country, so I try to get that data, that what kind of browsers they use primarily, and likewise. So it's not that I do not do testing for the other browsers or other let's say OS versions, but I definitely know that how and where I need to give more efforts, and where I can maybe put less efforts. If let's say some time I am running out of time, then maybe we can definitely with a note, but we can say that, hey, due to lack of time, we have skipped this one in this version, but the next cycle we will involve, and likewise. So accordingly I try to approach the application under test. Yeah. So I don't know whether it fits into some model or I don't have, to be honest, I don't have much idea about what is model-based testing, or what are the different models of testing.
Model-based testing is something slightly different than modeling
Okay.
in this context. Mahesh.
Hey Bridges, nice to see you in a different avatar.
I'm making some UI changes, buddy.
Well, talking about modeling, I mean, the first and the foremost thing that comes to my mind is the mental model. I mean,
correct.
Even before, you do anything with the model, the mental modeling is what comes to my mind. So that's what I generally, do as a tester. Do a mental model, have a mental model in mind before I even do anything beyond that, further to that. Right after that, the next thing that comes to my mind is PCO,
Mhm.
which James Bach uses heavily, product coverage,
Outline.
outline. Yeah, which really models out everything with regards to how we want to test, what we want to test, where we want to test, and everything. And apart from that, we use mind maps as well to lay out the model, um, and also track how closure, how realistic we are, with the model that we have laid out. And also we use, we don't extensively use, heat maps are something we're also looking at. How do we, generate models out of that? How do we compare, actual and expected models? We're trying to figure out if that could be done as well. So these are the things, generally that comes to me, when we talk about modeling. But I would love to hear, if other people are doing anything differently. I want to learn from their experience.
Yeah. So I just have a quick question. So when you say mental model, what is it? Can you just elaborate a little more, Mahesh?
Sure. One example I can give is, for example, right? Tomorrow, if I have a marriage function that I have to go, to a different city, right? The first thing, even before I open my Google Map or whatever, I start mentally calculating, okay, what time should I leave, and how do I drive, should I, check in my fuel, where do I stop for breakfast, all the thing, right? You start calculating mentally, right? How do you have to actually plan the entire thing, right? Same thing, you have to apply for the testing as well. Imagine that you're going to be starting with a telecom project next month, right? And the telecom has different modules, and if you have experience, you start building that mental math. Okay, based on my previous experience, this is how we tested the telecom product, and given that this new telecom product, how do I need to test it, how do I do it differently, what aspects should I be really caring about, what are the high, risk parameters that I should be evaluating. Those kind of, the initial sketch has to happen in mind, right? So once you have that rough initial sketch, start building on top of that. You could bring mind maps, you could start using whiteboarding, putting down on paper, brainstorming. Then everything, comes into, everything, automatically flows in. That's how I would look at the mental model.
Thank you for that, Mahesh. In fact, you're absolutely right. When we talk about modeling, it is basically, just to use a different terminology, it's more of a visualization of the activities that you would take up as a part of the whole assignment, or whatever it may be, to accomplish whatever you are trying to. And that mental visualization often is termed as modeling. You may have your different approach. There are certain standard, not standard, but there are certain prescriptions available, which people can follow as a guideline, and then build, their sort of approaches. One of the most popular ones that comes to mind is the heuristic test strategy model. Now that is one sort of, if I may use the word, a sort of a framework, which can obviously be modified and tweaked according to your needs, and then you can, derive your model based on that. And there are people who have gone on to extend the model further, and have their own approach applied to the whole thing. And one such extension was from Dan Ashby. I will share both of them, in due course, but I just wanted you to give you an idea of what the kind of work that people have been doing. So for me personally, the way I look at it is, I have been practicing, testing based on HTSM for quite some time. I first came across the heuristic test strategy model way back in 2009, and ever since then I have relied on it very heavily to come up with ideas. And I have just probably extended it a little more with a very simple question-based model, if you may call it, called 5W1H. I just ask a lot of questions, categorize them, bucket them as the what questions, the why questions, where, who, when, and of course, how. So thereby it gives me a clear idea of the things that need to be done. It allows me to have a focused, structured test design, and it is underlying to whatever I ask as questions are the suggestions made as a part of HTSM, and it allows me to tinker a bit more, think in terms of okay, what needs to be done. I've also gone ahead and extended it a little more. Until very recently, about 2018, I never realized that what I was doing as the extension in terms of thinking about it from the perspective of execution and thinking about it from the perspective of automation. What I was doing was also described by somebody else already when I actually encountered Dan Ashby's model, and where he has quite extensively spoken about it. But again, it is entirely context based. You can, to your comfort level, modify it, restructure it the way you want. Yeah, so that is my thought when it comes to modeling. And I will just go ahead and first start by sharing HTSM, if you guys have not seen it already. Can you see my screen? Can anybody just confirm? Faiz, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So, see the now when we talk about mental modeling, also when you're trying to visualize your testing, there has to be some sort of a structure, and this heuristic test strategy model gives you a very good background or a very good foundation to the structure that you are thinking about. It makes you think about the test techniques that you will be applying. It makes you think about the various aspects such as the project environment, the product elements that you'll be considering, the quality criteria that are critical to business. And of course, as a derivative or as an output of it, you get the entire quality story. Now, what James has done beautifully over the various versions that he has worked on has gone ahead and expanded and extended it to make it more structured. And he's described all the various aspects of it as to what the project environment is, and product elements, the test techniques, and everything else. And here in the test techniques, he is given largely a sort of various techniques which you can use as a guideline. Remember that this is a heuristic model. Remember that this is based on context. So not everything may apply to you. Some of it may not apply to your context. Okay, a lot of times you may have a totally different idea. So you can obviously add on to this. And something that we learn a lot in the RST class, and Mahesh can correct me if I'm wrong, is that James and Michael and everybody else who do the RST class always insist that we take this more as a guideline and to extend or expand on it. so that we can make it our own and have our own approach. Okay, mm, so you see that there are various techniques which are, prescribed here more as guideline, which will make you think. Now, when I spoke about it, I spoke about visualizing the way you test, and that is what actually modeling is all about. It is about being able to think inside the box, think outside the box, look at different perspectives, look at various ideas which you can apply to test the application that you are working on. And like Mahesh was describing, that if he has to go for a marriage in a different town, then he obviously starts thinking, already figuring out, okay, if I have to go, what is the mode of transport? If I have to drive, then do I need a full tank of fuel already, or can I fill it along the way? Or what all do I need to carry with me? For how many days am I going, and all of that. And this is all before, Mahesh also mentioned that this is all before he actually goes on to Google Map and plans the route and things like that. It's like visualizing the whole journey, visualizing the entire process of getting there to the marriage ceremony, and probably picturizing the marriage ceremony also in the head. There will be people, and I may meet ABC person, and because I'm going to an occasion, what gift do I need to carry? Or if I have to stay for more than one day, then what is the plan for that? So all of that comes to you automatically. Similarly, with regards to your testing, you might want to think and visualize and look at various aspects. And talking about this particular model, one of the things that has got updated or added, I wouldn't say added, it was already there, but updated is the automatic checking part, which is on automation. And you notice here that it is mentioned as automatic checking purely because checking is considered as an activity which can be automated, not tested per se. But that's one thing which is being called out here. Now, talking about this, let me just go over and try and share the model which I was talking about from Dan Ashby, just to give you an idea of what he did with the heuristic test strategy model. And this is quite interesting. So you can still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Brajesh, we can see your screen.
Yeah. So if you notice, what Dan, and this is from Dan Ashby and from Richard Bradshaw, because his contribution is also there, although this has Dan Ashby's signature on it. But Richard Bradshaw also made some valuable contributions to this one. And both those gentlemen have put in a lot of effort. So if you notice that aspects that were there in the heuristic test strategy model, such as project environments, product elements, quality criteria, everything has been listed here, and the box is labeled with context. So all of them are context specific. And from there, they have gone on to describe approaches, the structure, and then, how do you drive your test ideas? What could be the possible sources for your test ideas? All of that feeding into your test execution part of it. And then as a part of your test execution, what all are the various things that you might want to look at? This is, in my opinion, a very beautiful modification, considering aspects such as, looking at it from if you look at the approaches. So you have the scripted approach where you write test cases very specifically, and test cases, if I may just expand it a little more, make it a little more bigger. It talks about, binary results, and then they are driven by metrics. A lot of people follow that. There is nothing wrong with that approach, but there is a downside or a flip side to it, that it sort of kind of, in my opinion, it sort of restricts your thinking. So you might want to move towards a more exploratory approach, where you have the test charters, and you base it upon the product coverage outline, like again Mahesh was explaining. Use techniques such as session-based test management, rely heavily on your testing notes, and then next to the scripted approach is the automation approach, which kind of follows on the heels of your scripted approach, where you again write coded scripts or certain tests. And again, they are binary in nature. They are depending on change detection. Hey, Shruti, good afternoon.
Hi.
Good to see you here. So just to give you a quick context, we are talking about Dan Ashby's modification of the heuristic strategy model here. And if you notice, what they've also done is they have expanded not only the test techniques, but they have also considered the various types of testing. And interestingly, if you notice, alongside the heuristics and oracles, they also have types of risks. It is quite interesting to note this, because risk categorization is an important exercise when you're trying to visualize your tests. It starts with a very simple question: what could go wrong? Okay, and what have been your considerations before you decide on what could go wrong? It could be from an end user perspective. It could be from an application development perspective. It could be purely from an environment perspective. So there are a whole lot of considerations that can be taken here, and they give you a general sense of what the risks might be. And again, risks broadly categorized as product risk, project risks, business risks, and probably some more. So there is a lot that is going on in generating those test IDs. Now, remember that the goal of these models is to let you think about testing the application holistically, but always in a given context. Okay, because the moment you drop the context out of the whole thing, you're not arriving anywhere. Now, a lot of times people sort of ask for templates for testing, for test cases, for test strategy, and they think that whatever has worked for somebody else may work for them. But I have a slightly different opinion on that. Now, if you notice here, going a little further, what they have also considered is the execution part. And they made this big box where they've categorically mentioned information as explicit. Then there is tacit and implicit information. Then there are unknowns which you are aware of, and then unknowns which you are not aware of. Now, this is a very important consideration, in my opinion, because a lot of times when we are testing, we may think that, okay, there are certain things which, we are aware, may be unknown, but there may be situations when we don't know what we actually don't know. Okay, and those may be the surprises or the edge cases that we talk about. So it is very important to try and keep tickling your brain in that direction. So this is in a nutshell the modification that that Dan Ashby and Richard Bradshaw did to the heuristic test strategy model. And I think it is very good. I encountered this one in 2018, about 4 years ago. I find it very interesting. I find it very useful. I augment it to the 5W1H approach that I have, where I list down all kinds of questions, possibly, as long as it fits in my context. So this is something that I thought I want to share. Anybody has any questions, thoughts, ideas based on this?
This is good one, Bridges. I've not really seen it, but I'm going to check this out in detail.
Yeah, you know what, Mahesh? So I was talking about modeling, and I had actually forgotten about it. Okay, I had actually forgotten about this. And this morning, as I was preparing for the session, I was like, wait a minute, there is something on modeling that I've seen somewhere. There is another blog page. I think it is Anna Marie Charrett. I don't remember the exact name. She has written very extensively on modeling. There was a talk that she did in one of the STAR conferences about the whole modeling thing and how you visualize. And it is all about, before you begin with the entire exercise of testing, what is the sort of preparation that you have mentally to guide you? And if you can provide that sort of a picture, if you can build a picture in your head and show that to your team, then it adds a lot of value. And the organizations that I'm a part of, I generally try to do that exercise with the team, where I try to show them the picture that is there in my head. It can be in the form of a block diagram, it can be in the form of a flow chart, it can be a mind map, or it can just be a hand-drawn thing. Okay, where I tell them, okay, this is what I'm thinking. What do you guys think, based on your experience, based on some of the learnings that you've had from your past projects, based on the ideas that you have in using a certain product, okay, of a similar nature. What are you thinking? What is your thought process? What should go in, and what should be the considerations? And it's quite interesting the way people come out with their thoughts, their ideas. So yeah, this is I will share this in the test chat community as well, about this link and the entire blog page of Dan Ashby, where he's written about it. This is something beautiful, and I thought that this is a good idea to share this today.
Absolutely. I mean, this is so valuable. A lot of times, testers and testing teams do miss out on this. I mean, all they do is, start looking at the requirements and start writing the test case. And they don't realize how valuable, modeling is. And yeah, this is very useful.
Exactly the reason, Mahesh, why I am a little, let me be a little politically correct here, because this is getting recorded. Excuse me. I'm not very much in favor of writing test cases. And this is one of the reasons. When people just do a translation of requirements into test cases, that's where I sort of tend to draw the line. I'm like, no, before you even think of starting to write test cases, what are your considerations? And this picture, it depicts it so beautifully. If you look at the top box in blue, what they have done is they have picked up aspects from the heuristic test strategy model, for example, the project environment, for example, product elements, quality criteria, and then they have added things that they would like to think, for example, people and skills. This is something that we don't consider. So, when we are testing, when we begin our testing exercise, especially people who are managing test managers and test leads, do we really think about, do I have the right team to do this job? Are my people skilled enough to do this? Okay, do they need some sort of training? Do they need some sort of knowledge transition before they get on with the training? Okay, then what kind of tools am I going to be using? And when I say tools, it is not necessarily talking about test automation, but tools in general. For example, even for test management. Okay, for example, do I have the necessary infrastructure in place in terms of the environment that I need for testing? Or is it in line? Is my thinking or my approach to testing in line with the business strategy that we are trying to look at? We don't ask those questions. We don't clarify the context enough. And there is a tendency to jump onto writing test cases, which I think is a little dangerous in a lot of cases. And from a testing perspective, those are important considerations. Any thoughts?
Very, very true, Bridges. I second that. I mean, it's irony that, still people jump onto requirements. I mean, they jump onto writing test cases using the requirements, not really looking at modeling, how valuable modeling could be, I mean, even the managers, right? I mean, managers are also on the similar path where, they just want, testers to jump to writing test cases and, execute the test cases and give them metrics, right? How many test cases and how many defects and whatnot. I mean, they don't realize, with modeling, how you could plan, forefront. I mean,
Guess
in
what?
terms of environment.
Guess what, Mahesh? The thing that you're talking about, Dan and Richard did consider that here when talking about structure. A lot of people, they say, oh, our testing has got to be structured, and that's why we need test cases. Okay, and so they have considered that. It's quite natural to think of a structure. Okay, I'm neither you nor I are saying that it is wrong, but there are a lot more other considerations that you've got to think of when you're testing. And that's the part of the visualization that you should have as a tester, and especially as a test manager, like you were saying, Mahesh.
Right.
Now, yeah, so others who haven't spoken, Yasna, good to have you back. So Indrani, I don't know at what point you joined the discussion, but welcome. Shruti, what are your thoughts on modeling around testing?
I have so many of them, and it feels like things really haven't changed much in our space and in our field. And I think the whole problem with there's no problem with modeling. There's problem with the perception of involving testers from the right point, and I find it, and I'm not going to be politically correct and wrong. I am honest and I'm famous for that. And I would like to be so, because if you want proper testing without slippage and defects going here and there, somebody has to be very assertive, right? Because it's after all our shoulders from where the sign-offs go. And I find it extremely funny when people think of or say, oh, we need to have shift left approach and this and that and manual and automation and TDD and BDD. I think the whole crux of things they miss is, why not start involving your testers, and if not the entire team, at least one person from the testing team to be there right from the requirement gathering phase, or where if you're doing the scrum or agile or whatever you may call it, when you are actually thinking about scenarios, when probably your BA is getting on a call and giving that, oh, these are the things we'll be doing. Because again, there is human error in every phase. The BA might miss some scenarios, and as a tester, I remember how many times I have put a positive or a negative scenario into the sheets, right? So I genuinely feel that this whole concept is so amazing, but it's always about the timing from where a tester or the team is pitched into the entire cycle, where we miss on all these aspects.
It's a very, very important consideration. And I think you've hit the nail on its head, Shruti, by saying
What
that.
happened?
And
1 hour waiting time. Oh, kada card ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದಾಯ್ತು cash.
who's
That's fine. No, what? I gave both of them.
okay? Shiva is traveling, so anyways, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry, Brijesh. Yeah, yes. I had a time to join, but yes, and I was just listening to your conversation. Yeah, but yeah, as Mahesh and Shruti was saying that, I think I break the whatever when Shruti was saying, but I heard when Mahesh was saying it up. So yeah.
yeah, so no, I will let Shruti only paraphrase or rephrase what she was saying. But I just wanted to add to what she was saying is that is a very important consideration, and although it's mentioned here in this model beautifully, but it's a very important consideration. The timing of involvement of testers in the whole exercise is important, and it is a key consideration for the whole modeling as well, because the way you visualize depends on the time that you've got involved in the whole exercise. Because if you are sort of coming in midway through the game, you've already missed a part of the picture, you don't have the background, so the visualization that you would do may not be sufficient enough for you to get the right kind of results. So the timing is key, and I completely agree with you, Shruti.
Thank you so much. I mean, if anything at all, it means that, okay, I have been doing some right things in the past and I still am on the right track, because typically these things may look simple, sound simple, but except for some brilliant testers like we have today in this room or this platform, like most people don't want to accept these things, right? Half of the testers are not thinking about these stuffs, and the rest can't think because they don't have the capacity, or they are not being upfront or vocal in raising these concerns. Like, involve us as well in the cycle so that we can understand and help better. Plus, I also want to put some of my thoughts on your points where you guys were discussing about the test case writing, right? Again, I think it's the entire perception of the testing world, I mean about the testing world, from other people, where they think, okay, what do these guys do? These guys probably just write a test case. And how easy, I mean, how difficult could that be? So I think, getting on this call just re-emphasized me a fact that it's been 10 decades, 10 decades, 10 years or a decade, but some things haven't changed. And I remember in all those years, I strived exactly for these things, that we get some respect as testers, as, contributors in the team, like we are involved in the cycle early so we can help early with all the TDD, BDD approaches and stuff like that. And I was already shifting left when now people call it shift left. I find it extremely funny. But yeah, and I don't know if I'm again probably trying to hit the nail in the coffin and very hard this time. Like, do you think we'll ever reach that state where testers would be given enough respect or justice? Rajesh?
That is, that is a whole. That will require probably another session to talk about.
But that's the crux of everything, that solves all these problems.
It is. But before we even go and demand respect from.
No, you don't go there. You just give me maybe a hope. Like, do you think that will ever happen? Because it's already been 10 years and still we are striving for the basics.
That will happen, but the point that I was trying to make, Shruti, is that before that, we testers need to start respecting need to start respecting our own craft. Okay, and
Oh God.
okay,
Yeah.
the community seems to be divided. Okay, we have different thought processes.
Go ahead. Don't be politically correct. Just speak
Okay,
whatever is coming in
there
your
are
head.
there are debates. You know, no, I recently I've been very controversial, so so I try to I'm trying to tone it down a bit, but yeah, in a sense I completely agree with whatever you're saying. Shiva has raised his hand. Shiva, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, British. One thing is that what just Shruti has mentioned, I just want to answer to that, and what she also said, Brijesh, you don't need to be political here. But one thing is that what I observed from the time I'm in India from 2017, the testing community and the respect towards the testers in India has been grown because of the communities like test chat, test ride, or any testing community what we have presently. And I strongly believe it changed the perception in the market, and that is where I am confidently uh, going heading heading in the market. And that's I feel it's already started. It's already been changed a lot in the society, in the industry, IT industry basically. And that's I strongly I believed in it, and I'm believing in it. And to answer to that, Brijesh being want to be correct with this context, because the way the implementations, right? How James and Michael both are not doing the other side of implementation. People follow other side of implementations, right? So that is where all the controversies are coming to, and whatever Bridge is trying to be very political because it's going live on the YouTube. So he doesn't want to be like other issue starts there, and right. That's what my thoughts on that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shiva, for that.
Just yeah, sorry to interrupt. I would like to add one thing here.
Yes.
So like I slightly agree
Am I
with
audible?
both of them.
Yeah, Faiz, continue, please.
Hello.
Yeah, I think someone is speaking something. So
Shiva, you were trying to say something, Shiva?
No, I don't know whether I was audible before.
You were audible. You were definitely audible. We got your point. Now Faiz wants to add something.
yeah. So like Shruti said that there is we can say that was not too much respect for testers. But as Shiva said that communities are making difference. I will say how they are making difference, because see what I have observed, okay, that people get respect. Testers are also getting respect, but only those testers are getting respect who are different than others. Okay, so I think onus is on everyone, that because if you are so I don't know how to put it, but it might be politically incorrect as well, just a disclaimer. But let's say that there is someone who is good at something, okay, and there is someone who is a little bit top notch than the good one, okay. So definitely the top notch person is going to get respect. Okay, how you will get top notch, it's up to you. Or you may if you are good with the coding, you can maybe go with the automation part. You maybe like how to you make to you like to make application faster, you may go down the performance path. If you think that you are a very good you have very good test craftsmanship, you can go down that path. You think you can make application very secure, you can go down that path. But there needs to be some kind of USP, or you need to have some kind of upskilling or differentiating factor. If you have that, then only people will respect you. Okay, otherwise it is difficult to hope for or expect for respect. At the same time, I agree that compared to other roles, tester's role was being seen as a little bit in a demeaning way, but that is also being changing, and hopefully we will make that thing happen. We will make the dent, and we'll make it possible that it will get the equal respect. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to think.
I actually feel because of the communities, the perception has become okay, we need testing teams. So the perception has moved from what is the need of having a testing team or testers. From that, it has shifted to like hiring people. And again, respect is, very difficult to ask or earn in anywhere. But when I say respect, it's like respect for testers. It's not like respect me or respect Faiz or respect Brijesh. I mean, ironically, in a corporate world or any setup, you should be respecting other person irrespective of who he or she is or what they are doing, even if you hate that other person. But I've seen, like, I've been part of startups which are again now this is going to be problematic for me. Like, they are selling automation products, but when people join these companies as testers, they are not happy. They are like, why are we doing testing? And they don't understand if testers are going to use these products. And I don't understand some of the tools in market. They always try to call themselves as, we are developer friendly, whereas actually testers are using those products. Developers don't even care about it. So that is what exactly I'm talking about, the perception and respect for testers and testings. And I always thought that once that respect comes for the entire testing community or role, I ironically, the money, respect, everything will follow for us as testers. And I'm not sure how it will happen and by when it will happen, because and again, with respect to respect, I might be great at delivering automation codes and stuff like that, but I also know for a fact the moment you will strive or stand hard with respect to, okay, I want the testing things to be done very perfectly because I understand the onus is on me or my team. That might be a shaky ground for respect from other people. So you might be amazing at coding also, if we are talking about automation testers or testers, like whatever you may want to call them. But the moment you'll put a foot on the ground, like, this is how it goes because we are not testing it correctly, and so the respect starts to shake for you because you're being too honest about the glitches in the system.
And that's a very good perspective, Shruti and Faiz. And we did digress a bit from the modeling discussion that we were having. And like I said, I mean, that the thing that we were talking about, it needs a totally different discussion, maybe a chatterbox episode to discuss it through. So that's a good idea. That's a good thought planted in my head. We'll plan something. I'm very happy to see Parish sir also join in. So Parish sir, what are your thoughts on modeling of tests? And on the screen, I have Dan Ashby's model, which is built on top of the heuristic test strategy model that James built. So before I want to talk certain aspects of this model, but before that, Parish sir, your thoughts on modeling.
Hey, Brajesh. I'm sorry I could not join on time, so I do not know what you guys have already discussed. But this graphical on your screen looks good. It covers, I think, whatever different aspects we do. But on the craftsmanship, I think we all know about these things. We know about automation. We know about exploratory. We know test ideas and risk. Now, craftsmanship for me comes when we actually put our mind across all of those things, right? So craftsmanship is, I mean, take any craft, not only testing. Even if you take craft of making idols, right? Or take the craft of making buildings. Take masonry, for example. You will find masons who can do just enough or who can do a far better job. There could be masons who can make Taj Mahal, and there can be masons who can just make a road, right? So it all depends on their craft. And that is what is important for our testing also. That even if we know all of those things, what is important and what brings to our craft is that we are able to understand number one, different kinds of risk, And risk, as it is mentioned here, not only the product risk, project risk, people risk, risk because of tools, risk coming because of the processes we have.
Yes.
And uh, to add to that, something like an early warning when I'm going through my requirements, am I able to raise enough warnings that this may fail, right?
Yeah.
So no, thinking from a long-term perspective, that is important. Same thing when we are doing our testing also. Are we doing positive, negative, edge, corner cases? There are so many different terms industry is using, but the idea is to have a holistic look at the product, right? I mean, you never know, especially with these web-based applications and mobile applications. Children of 5 years are also using it, and old people of 95 years are also using it. So are we able to test for those personas? That is what the craftsmanship is. Requirement will say simple that this should happen, but how easy or how difficult or how things will be for different personas, that is what craftsmanship should be. I'm sorry, I was not part of the discussion earlier, so maybe I'm off track
No,
or off.
you're not. I think and no, sir, you're not. You made some very valid point. Now, what we were discussing before this is how and Mahesh, Faiz and I, and we just spoke about the aspects of modeling that we can think of, and Mahesh very beautifully gave an example of a real life example of traveling to a marriage and how he would like to model the whole thing in his head, or rather visualize the whole thing in his head, and then based on that take steps. Same thing is with regards to our testing as well. Understand the context, and then based on that start visualizing, and then start applying, just like you said. I mean, to use it in the craft in a certain context, okay, and think of it from the various risk perspective. And then in just to give you a brief recap of what we discussed, we spoke about the way we approach, or we like to approach testing, and draw a visual model of the whole thing that is likely to happen. And based on that, we tell our stakeholders that, look, this is how I'm thinking about testing this application, and this is where I need to get involved, and these are the tools that I need, and this is the kind of environment that I need, and so on and so forth. And a very good guideline towards building those models is given, number one, by James Bach, which is the Heuristic Strategy model. And then this one, which is from Dan Ashby, which is an extension on top of James's model, where he's thrown in a lot of other things. And so this is what we were essentially discussing before you joined it. And in this particular picture, one very interesting aspect that I liked is in here, where they're talking about continuous testing, and they are talking about testing the ideas itself. So you get a lot of ideas, you get a lot of thoughts about what you want to test and how you want to test. Testing the ideas itself is a very critical piece, and I think that should happen. And especially in context, we speak about automation a lot these days. We write a lot of automation tests as well. But how frequently are we testing our tests? We write tests thinking, oh, this will cover so much, and I'll be able to show 100% coverage to my bosses, and so on and so forth. But are you actually testing your tests? Is a question that I always want to ask. Then, testing the artifacts, testing the design, testing the code, testing the software processes. I mean, and it is a continuous process. That's why you see this this infinite loop here. It is not a one-time thing that you just test it once and then you forget about it. And that's why before you get started with your testing, you have to sort of picture this in your head. And that is what essentially modeling is, and is related to the craft as well. Like Parisa said, that it's very important that you understand the context and you try to apply that knowledge in that particular context. And beautiful example, Parisar, of a mason building, trying to build Taj Mahal versus a mason building a road. Now, yeah, in general, we can say masonry as the whole, the underlying craft, but the goals that both masons are trying to achieve are totally different, and that's why the kind of skills that they will need, the kind of tools that they will need, the kind of risks that they will need to foresee will all be different in their own context. And that's why it's important to sort of model their approach differently. I think my summary of your point was good enough, Parisar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Some people haven't spoken. Indrani, you have any thoughts to share?
Hello, everyone. This is my first session with this webinar. I recently joined this Telegram group, and nice to be here. I just get to know about test modeling, although we are using in our projects and all, but but the thing is, we don't know the deep dive and those details on it. Sometime I also agreed whatever Faiz and Shruti told that how testers are given less important and all, but keeping aside all those points, I don't want to elaborate. As you said, there is a separate topic all about it, and there can be a separate session of it. And yeah, test modeling, I get to know about in the earlier stages, we should involve and involve and try to restructures and all those things. So yeah, it was very informative session for me. I although joined very late, but yeah, it's overall
Never
good.
mind. It's nobody's late here. As long as you're in the session, you're good. Okay. I think Mahesh is a good guy to answer my next question. Mahesh, in the picture here, we see a word called oracles. Okay, and in a lot of times, a lot of testers have come and asked the question, what is a test oracle and what is its importance? How would you address that, Mahesh?
Heuristics and oracles are a very, very big topic. I'll try my best to answer that. Yeah. So oracle is, something, okay, let me take this analogy. So assume that, driving car, you've been driving, Hyundai i10 or i20, right? So assume that you already know that. Now that you've been asked to drive a big truck, right? So what would you do? So you start drawing parallel experience or parallel oracles of driving that i20. Okay, so I need to start the ignition. The first gear is going to be, more or less similar. The brake pads and clutch and accelerators are going to be, aligned in the similar way, right? I mean, you're trying to draw parallel oracles based on your previous experience, and you'll do your best to drive the truck, right? That is what we call it as oracles. I mean, oracles are you try to derive from your past experience or something that already exists, so that you make use of that experience to combine heuristics and oracle to test effectively. I mean, that's the simplest way of defining test oracles.
I think that was a beautiful example. Anybody else wants to add to that explanation? Faiz?
No, Bridges, I think myself currently give an example. I don't think of any example which will be able to, explain it in a better way. Yeah.
Paris, sir?
Well, I think Mahesh has given a very good example. I would just like to simplify it. Oracle is anything which has answers to our questions. That is the simplest definition of oracle. You go to a tarot card reader, the cards you pick, they are nothing but an oracle. Yes. Because they will be answering your question. When am I going to get married? That card will tell you. So that becomes an oracle. You go to
Oh.
a palm reader, he will tell you something, that becomes an oracle. So, I mean, and this term, I think the Matrix movie has a very good example of this, right? I think
Yes.
there was a
Yes.
person oracle in that movie.
Yeah.
The lady, she had uh, the right answers. And in fact, there's a very profound statement she uses, that it is not about that you are not asking the right question. I think this is what she says there. So no, that summarizes everything. And in testing, our most important question is what is going to be my expected result. Okay. And anything which gives you that answer, and I'm trying to oversimplify it. It is not as simple as what I'm saying, but for the benefit of everyone. So anything which gives you that answer becomes an oracle. It could be your past experience. It could be Brajesh, Mahesh, Faiz, our seniors. It could be any document. It could be a user story. It could be our BA, PO. Everybody can be an oracle for us if they are able to answer our questions. So that is how I tell my teams when I tell them to think about oracles. This is how I explain to them.
I think that is a very beautiful explanation. Would it be fair to address oracles as source of truth?
They have to be. They have to be, but in IT world, it may not be absolutely true. But by definition, it is.
Yeah. So
I think again.
Sorry. Go
Sorry.
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think
Shruti.
again, he kind of answered his question when he was talking earlier, elaborating the point. And even I think of Oracle the same way, like Matrix comes to my head as well. I think it's about asking the right questions. I mean, though there is no silly question, we don't want to categorize questions, but it's again like, taking the example of the Taj Mahal and the creating the road, right? Both are construction things, both have similarities. But if I ask things about road when I'm constructing a Taj Mahal, my oracle is definitely not going to give me the right answers. So having some logic and having some proper intent would probably give me the right answers for my oracle.
Context is the key.
Yeah.
Context is the key. Yeah. When I said source of truth, and Pari said, just to add to what you're saying, I mean, the source of truth could in some situations may vary from person to person, but essentially an oracle is a source of truth for a particular set of problems that we're trying to solve in a given context. Would it be fair to say that?
That is fair, Brajesh. That is fair. The only thing is that our IT industry is people focused industry, right? So my truth may not be same as your truth.
Yes.
Right. So if there are two POs, the two POs may have different thoughts about a feature, for example, in a very simplistic way. Now, unless these two people agree and they agree to a single source of truth, the teams may be confused.
Right.
So that is why I said that in our IT industry, this may change. And even tester has a different understanding that the POs are saying something else, but me as a senior tester, I may have some other thoughts about it, either because of my domain knowledge or I have seen past products, something like that. So who is right? What is the truth here?
Correct.
You get that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, so all said and done. Now I want to draw your attention to something down below at the very bottom of this picture. In the cloud, it is written as perceived quality. Now, any thoughts about that? Why is it mentioned as perceived quality and not?
I was waiting for you to get there.
Yeah, Shruti. So what are your thoughts?
No, I've said enough. I'll just keep quiet and listen now. But I was actually waiting for you to go there because that is one of the biggest oracle, perceived quality.
Okay. Yeah. So, Faiz, why perceived quality and why not quality as such?
Because I think quality, definition of quality, or what this quality differs from person to person. It basically depends on the perception. Okay, for me, might be like, let's say if a page loads in 5 seconds, it's good. For you, it might be only 1 second. For some, it would be only half second. So I'm just giving one very simple example, but everyone has a different perception of quality. Okay, so here what will happen, that whatever the team has the perception, the perception they have put, they have like means what they have derived after going through all these things, and whatever perception they have created or built, based on that that quality will be achieved. It may differ from, so they might have given their best, okay, and it would be best, but it may not be matching as per my perceived quality. It may be somewhat matching, it may be like altogether different. So those kind of things are there. That's why I think it's called perceived quality. I might be wrong, but this is what my understanding is.
Mahesh.
Yeah, I was thinking, what the author would have in his mind when he wrote the perceived quality. But I'll try to explain it in my own way, what I can understand based on everything that's been connected here. So first of all, it's hard to measure quality. I mean, a lot of people say that we are responsible for quality certification. We are responsible for 90%, 95%, 98%. I mean, that's not very true. It's really hard testers should not be in the job of measuring quality 100% or whatever, right? And also, for example, if I'm given a product to test the login of a particular application, the story I'm going to tell, with everything revolving around, testing, heuristics, Oracle, risk, the deep testing that I conducted, the story might be very different from somebody who tested the same application, right? They might be thinking in a very different way. They might have used different oracles and heuristics and everything, and their way of explaining the story might be a little different. I mean, not way different, but it could be different. So what I'm trying to explain here is quality is, mostly about people, how they perceive it, how they test it, and how they actually build everything about that. So when person A has to explain the story beyond everything, like in testing we say that, right? I mean, instead of depending on metrics like test case count, bugs count, or whatever. I mean, it's if somebody can explain beautifully, how they tested, what they tested, what kind of risks are involved, and everything, that itself is much valuable than all the metrics that we've been putting out there. So. So in that context, right, I mean, the perceived quality would be very different from person to person, and based on the context and based on everything they're going to be using to, derive it from their testing, the perceived quality might vary. So I'm presuming that, this is what they might be hinting at.
No, that's absolutely true. Paris sir, you want to add something? Perceived quality.
Well, so if we see perceived quality, the arrow is coming out of the information.
Correct.
Okay. So when we see perceived quality, we have to see what information we are looking at, number one. So both Faiz and Mahesh, I think they said that quality is people specific. I like Pizza Hut, somebody else like Domino's. I like Apple, somebody else like Samsung. So those things will always be there, and those things that come out of the information we have got. So I'll give you some examples here. Okay, I have worked with two organizations. One organization, any defect which is medium and low, if they are not fixed at the time of release, there is no problem. We will go ahead with the software release. Okay. The other organization, they said that we have a zero defect policy. Okay, unless we have got every defect fixed, even the lowest of lows, we will not go live, even if we have to change our release date and so on. Okay, so these are two examples of perceived quality. One organization thinks that if we leave medium and low, I'm still okay to go ahead. I will be able to meet the quality expectations of my customers. The other organization thinks differently on that. Now, that is the organization's perspective. The same thing is with the users and customers also. The example I gave about Pizza Hut and Domino's, right? They may be having the same process, they may be having the same output, but because of many other information could be the biases also.
Yes.
Okay, Brajesh says that James Bach is very good, so I perceive him to be very good, right? Mahesh says that Rex Black is very good, so I perceive Rex Black to be very good. I don't have a first-hand experience of both of these guys. Correct. So that is what perceived quality about anything is, and that is predominant in every aspect of our life. Again, Apple versus Samsung, or Android versus uh, iSeries. Okay, same thing is with no, from where we get our furnitures, which shopping mall we want to go. This is all our perception, right? I mean, some people like to eat at dhabas, some people like to eat at 5 stars. Again, same thing. It is all about perceived quality. So nobody can deny or agree that something is better at some place, but it is all about how we perceive, how we say it.
Absolutely, and even HTSM, it points to testing and quality stories. Okay, so it's always a story. It's about what you think of quality according to the information that you have received, and versus what somebody else thinks of quality based on the information that they have received. So when we put out as testers, when we do the testing and gather all the information and give it to our stakeholders, it entirely depends on what they make out of it. Okay, it depends on aspects as to what they consider, which quality criteria do they consider to be important according to their needs. And it may vary from person to person. It may vary, and it may vary in terms of what they are actually expecting out of the product, and and what they're thinking about it at that point of time. So yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, so all in all, when we speak about modeling, it's more of just more of a visualization of the entire journey that you're going to take up as a part of your testing effort. That's what modeling is all about. There are certain guidelines that are available. HTSM for one, Dan Ashby's model as another one. There are some other people who have also done some good scholarly work on modeling. Their references are also good to look at. So we all have our own individual ways of visualizing, and those are the models that we carry forward. Very interesting discussion today. And Shruti, Faiz, you guys have triggered some other thoughts. I need to catch up with you guys because I have some idea based on what you guys were talking, and that may be a very interesting discussion to have. It's very important that we talk about it more openly, more vocally, because it's a very interesting topic. It was a little bit of a digression from what we were talking, but it's absolutely right to have that kind of a discussion. Any closing comments from any one of you?
I had just one comment with this.
Yes, sir.
I think Shruti and Faya spoke about why are people not using modeling, and also in the very beginning we spoke about why the heck people are not using modeling, right? I mean, it's so beautiful, it's so valuable, it can provide a lot of benefits. Why the hell people are not using it, right? If we do a bit of reverse engineering, why people are not using it, I mean, perhaps that might give an answer, why modeling is not so popular in the testing world or in the entire R&D world, right? I think, the it's important that test managers, engineering managers, directors, and VPs do understand modeling. I mean, modeling with the testing and how relevant, how important it is, right? They might be pursuing that, what the crap is modeling to do with testing. I mean, it might be I mean, they might think that, it's very complicated. I mean, why do we have to do this, right? I mean, they'll be very easy of, somebody comes and says that, we'll write bunch of test case and, we'll tag it to requirements and we'll, monitor the quality and be done with that, right? I mean, that's super easy, right? So the first and foremost reason is modeling itself seems a little complicated. I mean, for example, the image that you showed from Dan, right? I mean, if I give the same image to my VP or somebody, they will be, oh my God, should we do all these things? Come on, man. Right? I mean, that's the first thing, right? Second thing is, people are looking at checklists. People want it to be easy. I mean, somebody has to do it easy. I mean, it could be the testing community has to come up with something to make it very, very intuitive and easy so that, that could be marketed, across the R&D and product management organization, right? I mean, again, to add to the comment that when will testers get you? I mean, testers will get you when we all come together. I mean, it will not happen with one person or two person. I mean, even though if there is a divided community, we still have to stick together. And there are engineering managers, there are testing managers who don't understand about modeling, who don't understand a lot of things that testing community do. So all those things have to literally come together, and we definitely have to look at ways making it easy, Bridges. I mean, see, people talk about shift left today. I mean, shift left is very, very important. I mean, people see the value of doing shift left, right? I mean, that's why engineering managers, VPs are all together in this. I mean, they want to do shift left because that gets tightly aligned with the goals and vision of DevOps to release the product, get faster feedback and everything, right? Yeah. And also another point, why modeling people would run away, because their products might not need it. I mean, they are worth taking that risk out. I mean, they have a bigger appetite for the risk, right? So that might be one of the reasons why testing might not be so important and relevant for them. I mean, for example, if the likes of Facebook are not working, I mean, that is okay. I mean, absolutely okay. I mean, if it does not work for a couple of hours or one day, that's fine. I mean, people could still, carry on with their jobs. So do you need a lot of modeling around the likes? Would an engineering manager buy that? Absolutely not, right? So, I mean, I can go on and on, but, it's for the testers and testing community also to make the job easier for engineering managers, VPs, and everybody.
So, Mahesh, since you spoke about Facebook, what do you think about the recent incident where they lost $238 million?
Man, they have to close Facebook, man. I don't use Facebook anymore.
Any other closing thoughts? Faiz, Shruti, Parishar.
Again, I think this is exactly what is perceived quality really is, right? Like my development team would be thinking, okay, there should be no defects is what is quality for them, versus a head of QA would be thinking, how many defects do we bring up, right? Probably if somebody is not thinking exactly a quantity versus a quality kind of a thing. And also, I think despite you mentioning that if FB is down for some hours, it's okay, but maybe for teams at FB, that is not the case, right? And a lot of engineering practices have really come from Facebook and other places, because people are like, look at them, how are they doing things and perceiving quality and shipping quality. So it's crazy that what people, despite not needing a Facebook all the time, might be so crazy and passionate about testing versus other things, who should be actually giving some value to quality.
Yes, one example I can give, Shruti, is, I've seen, products and companies where they have not really focused on testing and still they are able to run their business, billion-dollar business. So you might question, you're not doing adequate testing. You're not doing complete justice for your products, right? But they always have an answer, there's no impact at all. We are still able to, be profitable. We are still making billions of dollars. So how will you really justify that?
I definitely get your point. We are always faced up with these kind of scenarios. I mean, to keep it very simple and not going anywhere, to give my example, I remember once I was working for a bank, we got two bills within 2 hours. That is not a problem that we got two bills within 2 hours. The problem was both of them were having different architecture. And my fight was, why is it having different architecture? And none of the people from development and none of the people from testing team were actually realizing the effect and impact ki we have got two builds with different architectures. The user ultimately is going to use just one thing, right? Only a Taj Mahal or only a road, not, or probably both. It's a different thing. But
A
if
road
in
to
this
get to Taj
particular,
Mahal, Shruti.
yeah, but if at all in this build we are only focusing of building a Taj Mahal or only focusing of a road to get to Taj Mahal, we should be understanding of our fact, right? What we are trying to build. And people sometimes don't understand that. I know how many hours it took me to get people on the same page, and then they're like, okay, yeah, this is the point. It's not easy.
Fair point. Paresh sir, closing comment?
Well, I think completely agree with what Shruti and Mahesh were saying. A little different perspective I have got about some of the terms which we use in our industry. And that has a background to it. When I used to be participating in debates earlier in my school days, I sometimes used to use very heavy words from my world power vocabulary book. I used to put some very heavy words. And my father always used to say, keep it simple, Paresh. Your audience will not understand these difficult words. Now, that is
Wow.
exactly what we are doing in our industry also. The terms like modeling, terms like heuristics, and there are a lot many different words we are using. It is just a simple adding to confusion. Okay. I remember when I started my testing career, my managers told me, think like customer, Paresh. And that is a very simple statement. Like when you think like a customer, heuristics always come into place. The modeling always comes into place. All these things, they automatically come into place. So people who are joining fresh from colleges, they do not know what modeling is. They do not know what heuristic is. For them, we have to keep our vocabulary very simple. And that is what will help testing team. Just bringing out new words, difficult words, uh, sounding good words will not add anything to it. So that is what my take is. I mean, I think modeling and heuristics, these are not new thing. We have been doing, everybody is doing. Even shift left, it's a very simple word. That is why it is finding a good success rate, but it is not new. I mean, we all have been discussing with UAT, helping them with their test case or taking their test cases and planning to implement in the R&D phases. So that is what was shifting left, right? So we are now doing it a little more with the use of DevOps and tooling, etc. But the idea is the same. So I think we need to keep it very simple. That is what my closing comments would be, Brajesh.
I quite agree with you on that, Paresh. Keeping things simple. Very, very, very interesting session. Can we very quickly turn on our webcams for a quick picture? Mask is very important. Faiz, will you be able to do so?
Hey, Bridges, I have problem on my phone.
Okay. No issues. I was hoping that you have the race car and the racetrack background. Mahesh, I just love that background that you have. Anyways. Okay, I got that. Thank you for joining today. Wonderful discussion, a lot of learning. I will share the link to Dan's model in the test chat community as a follow-up of this. And, next week also we reconvene, and I want to continue. I should have actually done it today, but I wanted to continue the discussion on heuristics that we started doing last week. It was, when I looked at the episode, I thought that we should be probably talking a little more about it. But sir, I know you mentioned let's keep it very simple, so we will find out more simpler ways of doing it. And or maybe Parisar, you can suggest a particular topic within the craftsmanship area or the theme where you think we should emphasize more on, and we'll talk about it next week. Is there something that you have in your mind right now?
Sessions are okay. I was talking about testing as a whole. We try to complicate it. That was my point.
So within craftsmanship, do you think there is something that would need a little more attention when we talk about a testing craft?
So I see technologists as archaeologists. If again, little philosophical thing is the way, if you look at the archaeologists, right, they try to pick up whatever different rains are there and they try to make something out of it. That is what the job of all technologists today is.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what has been broken are different kinds of ideas, different kinds of thoughts, and technology teams, whether development or testing, the focus should be that they make something out of it. They kind of reproduce it. So that is how I see technology today, and testers and developers have a role to play. We play our role to ensure that the color coding that was earlier in that archaeological building, we have got the same thing. The strength could be same or not. We can check that, and our developer colleagues can make sure that they are doing something like that. But how archaeologists work, I would request all of our peers who are in the call to read about how archaeologists work. That is very similar to how technologists work. And I always relate to that. So I think, and that is what a very simple thing, Brajesh is. Just going into it, finding out, discovering things, and then making it as simple as that.
I think that's a beautiful analogy to close today's session. Thank you, Parisar, for that thought. Indeed, I also agree. Studied a little bit of stuff on archaeology. I was very much interested in learning about Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. So I did a little bit of study back in the day, but I see what you're actually talking about. And yeah, so on that note, I'd like to close the discussion today for now. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful rest of the Sunday that you have, and a wonderful week ahead. Cheers.
Thanks, Vijay.
Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Thank you.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.